Shocking news rocks the real estate industry, and tiny homes might mean tiny payments on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. Hi there, this is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm the Associate Broker and Residential Sales Manager of ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 135. And we are having some fun now this week. So, seriously, what is up with that? I'm fine until that little light goes on, and then next thing you know, hairball. So, anyways, so I hope everybody out there is having a good week. We're having, today, the national real estate market was shocked and rocked when salacious accusations came out from the National Association of Realtors. And this is what everybody's been talking about. Let's just start the story, okay? Let's just start with the headlines and we'll go from there. Okay, this guy right here, NAR President Kenny Purcell, resigned after a New York Times expose that came out this Saturday, where the investigative report had alleged rampant sexual misconduct at the National Association of Realtors, and President Kenny, oh my God, they resigned Kenny. Yeah, he is gone. So in that, 2 hours later after he resigned on Monday, President-elect Tracy Casper, and this is this lady right here, had stepped up and is now filling this the rest of his term. She was actually due to come on board in November after the elections. She was going to be our new NAR president. She is now stepping in an interim role to finish out the rest of his, time, and then she will come in full force after that. And it is, you can pretty much Google this story, and I spent a lot of time going through it. It's apparently, these accusations, go back many, many years. Okay, they have detailed claims from 19 different members, said they endured sexual harassment on the job, and depicted an overall culture of harassment, retaliation, and evasion. When that story came out on Saturday, it's like the safeties came off, right? And people felt the ability to talk about this guy and other alleged misdoings at NAR headquarters. So let's just say NAR is going to be a little distracted right now that we have the lawsuits coming in. Several CEOs of large real estate firms came straight forward and said, hey, it's time for him to resign. Everybody, of course, is shocked and amazed and, oh, we never knew. And then a couple hours later, other stories would come out. They were in full spin control and doing a very, very poor job of that. Don't know what the long-term ramifications of this is going to be. For you, the consumer, probably not a lot. You might not be able to get a hold of your real estate agent because I have PSTD from being in the military in the 90s after the tailhook fiasco, where a bunch of officers got together at a party, and the party got very frat boy, and that's what happens when you have naval aviators and alcohol and women together in a hotel room in Vegas. All right, but long story short, every person in the military back then had to endure 8 hours of sexual harassment training, where basically we, the enlisted folk, were told by our officers, yeah, hey, don't act like us. All right, so I'm pretty sure this is what's going to wind up happening, is that we're going to have a couple of letters of concerns, we're going to have various statements from the various state associations, and then we're going to have some sort of mandatory fund sexual harassment training, which, to be honest with you, I can sort of see how the associations would benefit from that. Brokerages being their own independent companies, and brokerages being some large companies, some small companies, some brokerages of one person, some husband and wife team brokerages, which would make that class really interesting. Maybe a little couples counseling and therapy on the side. But, this is something that, you hear the stories, the dirt balls. Okay, the brokers out there who have a really great picture on his ad on the side of the bus stop. And you notice that the turnover rate for agents in his brokerage are very high, especially the young female ones. All right, so let's get that under control, boys and girls, and let's start acting like men and women. All right, unless you identify as something other than that. That's outside of the scope of this podcast. All right, so that like I said, this one's going to be interesting how it affects everybody in the world, because it's I'm more concerned about the downstream ramifications of this, mostly because the people who are saying we need to get rid of NAR are using this as yet another example of why NAR is no longer fulfilling its primary purpose as described today in their modern marketing, in their modern branding. All right, does this really help homeowners at the end of the day? Does NAR really help homeowners at the end of the day? There's a lot of agents out there who feel like they do not. All right, that NAR seems to be about NAR, and NAR seems to be about getting more NAR members. And it comes back a couple years ago. I think I've mentioned this before. There was a huge study done by NAR. They went out to a third party to study NAR, query consumers, real estate agents, brokers, and basically anybody associated with real estate. And basically said, what do you think the biggest problem we have right now? And number one with a bullet to the top of the charts was piss poor agents. And that created in the classic example of, hey, we just spent a lot of money that told us something we don't want to know. All right. NAR actually tried to suppress the results of that study. Everybody's saying we have piss poor agents. We have poor licensing guidelines. We don't follow up on them. Those agents that do come in are poorly led, poorly managed, poorly trained, and they go out there and they screw up, the consumers' lives. Right? That was basically what that was in a nutshell. And NAR with their, we can't say bad things about the brand and really, really did go out of their way to try to repress the results of that study. In fact, I could actually get in trouble for mentioning that study on this podcast. All right, so we're in the dark web now, people. We're through the looking glass. So, but once again, here's our problem. Oh no, we don't like that problem because we like. Okay, editorial. It's my opinion that NAR with their member-focused agenda. All right, let's get as many members of our association paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars. All right, so we can go lobby. Really did look past the main mission, and they just became an organization to promote their organization. And this editorial is over. Last week we also covered a bit about, I was talking about the Department of Justice lawsuits and those other lawsuits that are coming down. And in the middle of reading all these articles, and I couldn't find it again, they were talking about NAR's solution to dealing with the Department of Justice. And, just to recap, there are policies in place that the Department of Justice doesn't like. A lot of real estate agents, this guy didn't like them either, but I was forced to work under these things if I wanted to be a real estate agent, if I wanted to be a realtor. All right. Now, I could still be a real estate agent and not be a realtor, but here in the state of Arizona, that is really, really, really hard. Really hard. All right. If I was independently wealthy, I would try to do it just as an experiment, but I don't think you could actually do it. That being said, so NAR sets the policies. Department of Justice is suing NAR over the policies, and apparently one of the offers that NAR has made to the Department of Justice is, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we make this a class action lawsuit? Why don't we admit that we did bad? Why don't we take $2 billion or $4 billion, or however much we set it aside as our penalty, as our punishment, and then anybody who is damaged by us within the guidelines we'll negotiate will get a percentage of that money. All right. And then they're going to go to the real estate agents for that money to pay off these people. All right. We were forced to act in the ways that they forced us to act in, and now they're in trouble for making us act that way. Now they want us to pay their bill for them. That'll be interesting if it's true. Like I said, one article. Pretty high source, all right, but it was an opinion piece. It wasn't a factual piece, so we don't know if that's actually how that's going to come out, all right? But the numbers they were talking about was $400 a year for every member for the next 4 years. So $1,600 total on top of our dues to pay for doing what they forced us to do. And you guys wonder why I'm a libertarian. What the hell? This is... Anyways, let's go on to other things, all right? Saw something really interesting today that should have screenshotted this one, saying that we are of all the metro areas in the country, we have the 7th highest ranking of new listings. Those are listings coming on week to week. All right, let's take a look at what we got this week. This week we have 11,669 active listings, which is up 223 from the week before. Of those, 1,751 are new listings, which are down 92 from the previous week. Houses that went under contract were 1,951, down 95 from the previous week. Our closings were at 1,397. And coming soon to an MLS near you is 600 new listings. So even though we have what we consider low inventory, the rest of the country is also experiencing low inventory. So we're the best of the worst. Don't know how you want to say that. Cromford report numbers came in. Our supply is at 48.8. Right? So just figure where there should be 100 houses. There's 49 houses out there instead. All right. Our demand went down a little bit to 76.7. Okay. That gives us, 76 buyers, 77 buyers where there should be 100. And our Cromford report number came down to 157.1, continuing that slide down. Although the delta of that is actually starting to shallow out, so we're not seeing as big as jumps before. Let's also take a look at our Cromford numbers right here. As we break it down, notice everything is trending red except for Cave Creek, up 17%. And they're one of those ones who were actually leading the pack, right? They started going down before everybody, now they're going up. So Buckeye is also up 9%. They're at 120th, so they're well into seller market over there. You remember this time last year they were just creeping into. They're at 110.4, and now they're definitely over the line. Goodyear still trending down, still considers a seller's market. Maricopa hanging on, okay, at 110.9. All right, that 0.9 puts them into what's technically considered a seller's market. And Queen Creek is the balanced out there on the market. Last month they were sellers, now they're in the balanced area. Remember, everything on here is trending down that we're seeing. Cave Creek is the biggest grower. All right, and once again, Fountain Hills is leading the slide, okay, being down 15%. Chandler's still in the 300s on this, even though they've come down 8%. So even though everything is moving towards the buyers, think of it as a football game. Yeah. Buyers are advancing the ball. Great. You started off on your own 2, and now you're on your own 7. You still haven't scored a first down yet. So you're going to hear more football stuff from me as the season starts, but longtime listeners remember that. So another article that came up that I really liked. This is one I found on Twitter, and then I wound up finding an article about it. And this is talking about a bunch of small homes that were built in San Antonio. All right, they would be considered tiny houses if they were in San Francisco. They'd be considered tiny houses if they're in a blue state, but because they're in a red state, they're considered, horrible little death traps, at least by the people who wrote this article. You can just tell the tone of this whole thing. But what we have here is we have houses that are starting for $130,000. All right, in San Antonio, they're 300 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. All right, 350 square feet. All right, measure that out in your head. That's smaller than 20 by 20, I think. Yeah, smaller than 20 by 20. All right, it is as small as some people's master bedrooms here in Phoenix, right? But starting out at $130,000, it actually sits on its own land. There's a more spacious unit that goes for $163 at $661. And it's an interesting conversation about this because, you guys might remember a time past, the tiny home craze that we had about 2, 3, 4 years ago, pre-COVID. And then once COVID hit, people realized if I have to stay home, I want it to be able to go like this and not touch walls or people or furniture. All right. And that tiny home craze just sort of kind of died right with COVID, Rest in peace, tiny homes. Because now tiny homes are bad. All right. So they're sitting there talking about, here is a starter home. Here is something else. Here's for one person just graduated college to get on that escalator, start working their way up. All right. Now, 100,000, that's, ooh, hey, you know what? I just had a thought. This number right here will work really good if we're looking at 100,000, just divide everything by 4. All right. So instead of 20,000 down in closing costs, you're only coming down with 5,000 down in closing costs. You're only going to be borrowing whatever 386 divided by 4 is, but your principal and interest payments, not taxes and everything like that, remember that, is going to be significantly reduced to a fourth of that. So we're looking at $540 a month. So maybe you're paying $600 a month total. All right. Does that beat your rent? Does that beat your rent for a 1-bedroom apartment? See how the math works, boys and girls, right? So really interesting. And what also got me thinking about this whole thing is here's a picture of these homes that they're talking about, right? I think they're sort of cute, you know. Apparently this entire top floor on these designs and stuff. I don't know if this is a 660, all right, but they were talking about how the other ones have loft space. Just looking at the exterior based off the windows and the doors, I'll bet you these are probably the 660 view. So maybe there's a stairway, 2 bedrooms, maybe a bathroom up on top. You know, not huge, not large, not a lot of space, but you have 4 walls that are yours and a roof that is yours and potentially no roommates. Right? That is a certain amount of value to people. And then some wag came on and said, people keep gravitating towards but won't actually admit it. Do you know what these 3 houses would be if you slammed them all together so they all had adjoining walls and made them out of brick? They'd be that. All right. These townhomes, I do not know where this one is particularly taken at, but let's say these townhomes are in San Francisco. Those suckers are selling for millions of dollars a piece. All right. This one, I know, is in San Francisco, and that is probably $3.5 million. All right. Walk up, townhome, garage space for your Prius or your Mini Cooper. You're definitely not putting a Ford F-250 in there, right? But still, I would live there. I don't even like neighbors. That's cute. Oh my God, that's cute. Let's look at a modern day townhome floor plan. All right. Now this is going to be hard for you guys to look at, all right? Because you're probably looking at it on your phones. All right. But let's see. Ooh, zoom. All right. That's your front elevation. That's what you're going to look like at the front. That is very, very non-adorable. All right. That's not a lot to look at. All right. But what you have in that space right there are 3 separate units. All right. First floor has this center unit is a 1-bedroom apartment. All right. Come in. Here's your porch. Pointing at the screen like you can see it. Come in your porch, right in the living room. Here's your dining. Here's your kitchen area. There's your bathroom. There's your laundry off the bathroom. Okay. There's your little shower. No bathtub. Shower. Here's your mechanic room for your hot water heater and everything like that. All right. And your bedroom. Bedroom appears to be 11 feet by 13 maybe. Yeah, 11 by 12. That's an 11 by 12 bedroom right there. All right. The other 2 units on either side, you enter into the living room, go straight into the dining. There's a stairway up on the right-hand side. Kitchen folds into the back doors on both, so you probably have like a little patio or something back there. Second floor, these are for the 2 adjoinings, okay? Owner suite, decent size, all right? And its own master bath. And then 2 bedrooms, roughly the size of what we saw downstairs. So we figure that's like an 11 by 11, 10 by 10. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, your grandparents grew up in these things. All right. This is how urban living used to be back when these things were being built. All right. And that's just, is this going to be the wave of the future? Is this what we're going to need to, get affordable housing and everything? Don't know. Zoning makes it so these things don't get built in areas where the land is cheap enough to build them. These right here, right, they're probably that cheap because Texas is notorious for having very, very lax zoning restrictions when it comes to be building houses. Notice even there, we have at least, figure the lot lines right there, and if that's 12 feet wide or something like that, that's at least 6 feet, 5-6 feet away from each other. That's the setbacks because of zoning, right? And it's those individual zonings that are keeping these from being dense packed like that or like this. So Can we get these in Phoenix? Yeah, we could get these in Phoenix. What we would have to do about it, we would have to allow the zoning requirements to be changed so you don't have the offsets in the cheaper areas where the land is cheaper. The reason why you see these things nowadays is they tend to be built downtown where they can get a variance on the zoning, okay, and they dense pack them together, and then these things sell for $500,000 a piece. All right. So there's your housing conversations for the day. Wow. That whole thing went a lot faster. Yesterday when I was planning out this whole NAR thing, I thought I was going to be talking about that a whole lot more than I actually did. So, all right. If you're interested in first-time home buyers, if you're a first-time home buyer, if you're interested in getting in on the ground floor of these things, all right, remember the conversation we had from 2 weeks ago, right? Houses out there, you're going to be looking at about $400,000 to start. I got a buyer who's just come back online. He's looking under $400,000. He's finding houses all over the place. They're mostly in the west. They're mostly on the southwestern side, right? But you can start your household life going out over there. If you were interested in some of these townhomes or that kind of house design, Central Phoenix does have a lot of townhomes for sale, right, at lower price points. Now, remember, I should have mentioned this with all these things. You're going to have an HOA on top of these things. There's going to be some sort of HOA input. Sometimes they'll have shared community pools. You know, that's what's going on. This isn't going to be the traditional, I own a walk-up townhouse, walk-up brownstone in D.C., and it's completely mine, all right? Just because the way they're going to pack these things in with modern standards, there's going to be HOAs involved, right? But still, interested in that, of course, you guys can give me a call. And like I said, it's how you get started. Yeah, your grandparents raised your kid in this floor plan over here, okay? I don't know if a modern family can work in a floor plan with that much living space, even though technically, you know, 2 adults, 2 kids would fit in there quite right, all right, or any other combination you wanted to do that. A single person could buy a house like that, rent out the other 2 rooms, rent out just one of the rooms, all right? This, you know, this I would hazard a guess would not work too well with the mixed generation families that we're starting getting in, just simply for the fact is, you know, people going up and downstairs, you have to be conscious of the fact that as you get older, looking at your Generation X out there, you're going, you know, stairs get steeper and gravity gets heavier the older you get, right? But still, great design, completely option. But as always, you know, your housing style is your housing style, and your housing needs are your housing needs, and everybody has a different need and want, right? Except for one big one, right? Pretty much everybody likes to sleep under a roof when the monsoons hit. Like, it's starting to cloud up. We're going to get some rain this weekend. I'm excited, all right? And what that means is you're not driving into anything flooded, right? And if for some reason you are out there, you're going to be watching your kids and pets around the pools, right? You're going to work your circles, all right? A little trick on that is I just realized when I start listening to a podcast or something, you know, starting to suck me in, I realize it's turning into a time waster. My question is, what circle is this podcast in? And if it's past a certain point out, I just turn it off. Try that. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys all later.